shit.
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait.
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Welcome to the Muscle, Mind, and Money Podcast. I am one of your hosts. My name is Dominic.
And this is Nastasia. Now, on to the show. That sounds really good, and you're giving me hope that I don't have to go buy a Peloton and I can do this stuff outside.
Yeah. Well, the big takeaway for me is rate of perceived exertion.
Yes.
So if we're walking for 30 minutes now, we have very little rate of, it's not hard. You got to change. Change is good for it. It's the only way your body's going to adapt. And when your body adapts, it'll build muscle, it'll burn body fat, it'll do all the little chemical changes we want to happen. What about body exercises? So if you're talking on the heart, that's like the base of everything that fuels the body with blood. But like the core, your core exercises, because if I don't have the weights to crush, but I could crush my body weight and I could do a ton of core exercises at home. And a lot of those are the ones that we skip when we're at the gym because we have machines and benches and things that make our core really weak. And if we're at home working more, we're sitting.
Yeah.
We're even more and more and more, right? So what would be like work on the abs, the lower back? What's Logan's tools and tricks there?
Yeah, and again, it's like we've been forced into a state of change, and one of the best things you can do right now is kind of reset and go rebuild that foundation. So like, again, aerobic cardio is kind of part of the foundation. Mm-hmm. Core, balance, strength, endurance, however you want to think about it, core capability, that would be another really awesome thing to spend some time on. And I think what people sort of have a misconception about in terms of core is it's not like your six pack. Your core is actually, the way I like to think about it is actually kind of every muscle kind of between your knees and your shoulders helps set your pelvis and your spine in the right position. So when we talk about things like a weak core, one of the common kind of results of that is low back pain. So if I go do a bunch of crunches and sit-ups, that's unfortunately not really going to help. So if we were going to take this sort of lack of equipment, body weight time, there's so many great things you can do for your core from a body weight perspective, and it's going to help you improve your posture. And then when you go back to the gym and you are adding weight again, you're actually going to notice that you're stronger. So like when we talk about people whose goal is increasing strength, one of the number one things that we do is we actually teach them how to connect their entire body so that they can actually use the strength they already have. A lot of times when people are lifting weights, they're doing it in a kind of isolated way, like bicep curls, or they're using a machine, and they're trying to sort of just focus on one area of their body. But where we actually have the most strength is when we create tension and we connect the entire body. And it's your core that connects, right? So your upper body and your lower body are connected by your core. So when we write a workout for a client, we always include some core activation in the warm-up for kind of that same reason. It's going to help us have more strength when we go to lift. If you take a period of time, like a week, a couple weeks, a phase, and you really focus on establishing a better, a more balanced core, you're going to notice those same benefits when you go back to the gym. So a couple of examples when it comes to core, again, it's all about putting your pelvis in the right position and then making sure that your spine can stay in the right position versus, like falling out. We talk about technique as like resist falling out of good form. So when we look at core exercises, I'm talking about things like, a dead bug, a plank, a side plank, a hip bridge, the bird dog exercise. It's super easy. You could Google any of those and there'd be a million things that would show up because they're such great exercises. But that to me is a really, really great place to start, because if you can't do one of those movements, where you have trouble in that movement is going to show up everywhere else. So if you can't do a side plank on your right very well, but your left is pretty good, what that means is like the right side of your body, those muscles are weaker. Well, when you go do a squat, the right side's going to kind of collapse because it's weaker. Well, you don't want to do a squat with your spine curving, right? Or if you have a hard time doing a plank, you can't hold it for like 90 seconds. Like that's kind of my standard. You got to be able to do a plank for 90 seconds. If you can't do that, well, again, if you squat or if you deadlift, you're going to lose the position of your spine in those loaded movements as well. And that's really where we see, the risk of injury. So this would be a great time to just focus on some core, and you can do it on your living room carpet, and you could do it like 5 minutes at a time. These are great little movement snacks, and they're not hard to do. You just have to kind of be willing to do it kind of repetitively for a little bit in order to kind of establish this new way of moving, or this better way of moving that then is going to translate into all the other stuff that you do.
Yeah, you brought up the plank and you brought up 90 seconds. And so there's something with time under tension, isn't it? So, and these exercises align the pelvis and they put the spine in the neutral position. So you had bird dog, dead bug, plank, and then you even added a side plank in there. And then you mentioned these are exercises that'll have time of resistance with them, correct?
So again, when we look at programming, and one of the things that I love, I consider myself more into functional training than anything else. So where Dominic, I would say you're into a traditional style of weightlifting that's more dumbbells and barbells and machines. I would say I'm a little bit more functional, where I'm doing a lot of body weight stuff, or I'm doing a lot of athletic movements. It's not that I don't use weights. It's just that I use less weight because I'm moving more. But one of the reasons why I really like that style of training is you have to be able to control the position of your entire body while you're doing whatever type of movement you're doing. And so having a strong core is super important for being able to do that style of movement. But it doesn't really matter what type of exercise you're going to do. Your core is just really important. Protecting your spine is really important. So those exercises that I mentioned, when we start to build someone up on those, if I take a client that hasn't worked out in a while and they're like, hey, I'm going to train with you for a while, one of the first things that we're going to prioritize is core, posture, technique, those kinds of things. And what we're going to start off by doing is little holds. So let's say exercise 1 is a plank. We might do 10 seconds, rest, another 10, rest for 5, come up for 10, rest for 5. We accumulated 30 seconds by doing 10 seconds really good at a time. What someone might feel if they just tried to do 30 seconds right away is they would do 10 seconds and then their back would start to arch, and then they'd start to feel the muscles in their low back get a little bit tight, and then their head might fall down towards the floor. So there's no point in doing 30 seconds where 20 of those 30 suck. Your form's not good. So if we did 10 really good and then rested for 5, and then another 10 really good, and then, you know what I mean? So we'd start with little holds, and then we'd start to get to the point where we could do 30 seconds all at once.
Oh, great.
And then we might do 45, and then we might do 60. It might take weeks for us to get to a 60-second hold. You shouldn't be demoralized by that. You should actually pat yourself on the back for the fact that however many seconds you can last, you're paying attention to really great form and that total body connection. But that's kind of what I mean when you say time under tension. When I think about that from a functional training perspective, I'm thinking about it as great form. My bones are stacked. My body's in the right position. The muscles that are trying to hold me up are all engaged. And I hold for as long as I can until I lose something. And then I let go. Whereas when you say time under tension, you're kind of talking about the speed at which you're moving the dumbbell or the machine or whatever. Both of those concepts kind of mean the same thing. But right now, as we likely have less equipment, if we think about it from a little more of that functional perspective, I think you'll be surprised by how much of a challenge it is. And you'll also benefit by the improvements that you make, even in a short period of time, just by training that way.
So Logan, if I have no equipment at my house, I have inside and I have outside, I'm clear around doing some aerobic cardio, I'm clear around the core exercises, what's a simple way I can create a body weight workout beyond the core exercises and still make it effective while I don't have actual weights?
Totally. So if you're stuck with just your body weight, then what I always tell my clients, let's say they're going on vacation or something like that, what I always tell them is prioritize the lower body. The muscles are bigger. You're carrying the weight of your entire body when you do those exercises, and you're actually just going to get a bigger bang for your buck. So if we do squats, and if we do lunges, and if we do step-ups, those are all things that you can do body weight with no equipment. You can actually do them in different directions. You can do side lunges, you can do front lunges, you can do back lunges, you can do front step-ups, you can do side step-ups. So there's actually a fair bit of variety. And again, what I would focus on is go slow enough that you can focus on your posture, right? So if you do squats really, really fast and your chest bends over a lot and you're kind of like your chest is parallel with the floor, I would go slower and try to keep your chest up a little bit. Keep your core really tight. So going slower, especially on the way down, we call that the eccentric part of the movement. So if we go slow on the way down with really good form, we pause for a second at the bottom, and then we kind of go up a little bit faster, that's going to be awesome. And you're actually going to start to get a little bit of that muscle burn that tells you you're moving towards that anaerobic energy system. And there's a ton of benefit there.
When I first became a trainer and I learned about tempo of exercises, so what Logan just explained is changing up how many seconds you're taking during different parts of the exercise. And scientifically, there's different ways that you can program that. It's like 2 seconds down, 2 second hold, 2 second up. So it's very like even paced. There's loading on the movement going down that you're taking more time, so the load is heavier, the isometric hold is longer, and then you're exploding up, what Logan just explained. And then there's fast, like 1 second down, 1 second up, 1 second down, 1 second up. So the way I started selling training to fit people, I was like, okay, just get on the chest press and pump the weight, however you do it if you didn't know me. So like somebody like a Dominic would get on full stack of weights, pin at the bottom, I'm going to impress you, and banging out the chest press just like 1 second down, 1 second up. And he, you know, that individual could lift the whole stack. And then I would say, okay, now you're ready to do a push-up on the floor. Oh yeah, man, I got it. And I would put them on the floor and do a push-up 4 seconds on the way down, 2 seconds holding, explode up. And no joke, fatigue within, like, couldn't even do 10 reps. I'm not talking about
I feel
Dominic.
like I'm getting
talking
profiled left and right here.
About a Dominic.
You know, the Dominic's in the room.
Well, you say yourself
For everyone
up
that
for
can
it.
lift a
Did
lot
you
of
not?
weight.
You
Yeah.
asked Logan in the beginning. Yo,
did.
someone like me. So what we're trying to explain to you here is you don't actually need equipment to put your muscles under tension and to be able to get into that anaerobic state, even with your own body weight. It's not going to work as well, though, if you're just pumping out push-ups. So if you want to challenge yourself with simple exercises, what I'm hearing Logan saying from my experience as a little trainer lady, take the time to change your tempo, and the change of the tempo is going to create resistance without actual weight. It's so effective, and it's a very easy way to change up what you're doing and shock your body, because most people actually don't know this trick and don't really train like this.
Well,
and here's, I was going to say, here's the thing about that style of training. If you're used to doing an hour of kind of like fast, like, no offense, but I call it like fast and flaily. If you're kind of like all over the place and bicep and then leg extension and then whatever, and your body is kind of loose, you can actually go for quite a long time, and you can do a fair bit of volume. And then you might think that, like, that's how much I can do. Just be aware that if you're going to switch it up and try what we're suggesting here, if you're going to focus on total body tension, slow eccentric, pause, and then explosive concentric, just be aware that it's going to get hard quickly, and you're going to get tired much faster, and psychologically it's harder, right? So you're not really going to, I wouldn't do an hour. You're going to hate it, and you're going to be super sore. I would do like 10, 15 minutes. Yeah. Right. And I wouldn't do like this. I wouldn't do squats like that every single day in a row. I'd try to mix it up a little bit. So here's the whole thing about this anaerobic energy system. As we start tapping into that higher intensity and that muscle burn, you don't have to do it all the time. Like maybe 3 times a week is good. Whereas aerobic cardio, you can pretty much do that almost every day. So that's the whole thing about the energy system, is the intensity also affects the frequency. The lower the intensity, the more often you can do it. The harder you're working, the higher the intensity is, you're going to get a lot of benefit, and you don't have to do it every single day. So just be aware, it's an awesome style of training, but it's going to feel different. It's going to feel challenging. So just take it in little bits and pieces, and then you'll be successful.
Yeah, this week, what I wanted to share was Nastasi's been doing 30-minute yoga classes with a friend of hers. Kelsey's been doing an awesome. I tried one of them. I got through 15 to the 30 before I blew a tire. Like, I'm like, oh.
He hasn't come back since. I've
been busy. Lots of work. Been out doing my thing, socializing, working hard. But it's so time under tension. And with these bodyweight exercises, it immediately what goes in the back of my mind is yoga. But I'm not trying to label it that. But I know when we spoke earlier before we started our podcast, you talked a big part, and I'll probably transition into, is the mobility and stretching of, your at-home based exercises that will completely change your gym life moving forward if you get behind these, because I'm someone that can testify to this. My lack of mobility and range of motion limits any kind of strength that I think I could have. And if I'm worried about losing my gains in this downtime of not being in the gym, I can probably actually be stronger when I get back to the gym just by doing some of this, but focusing on like mobility and stretching. So what's your take on that, Logan?
You know what? I'm going to throw you a bone here, because I am talking about functional training and I'm talking about all this stuff. But if we rewind a little bit, we go back to when I was at university and when I was in my pro career as a soccer player. The only real style of training that anybody knew how to do back then was like isolated, single muscle, single movement, heavy stuff, right? So literally for 4 years, we had a hammer strength, plate loaded set of machines, and it was like chest press, high pull, row, leg press, leg extension, leg curl, you know what I mean? And like we did 15 reps, and if you could get to 15, you were out. And if you couldn't get to 15, say you got to like 13, your partner would have to help you do 3 more. So it's called 15 force 3. And the worst was if you got to 14 and you couldn't bang out the last one and you had to do 3 more and you were dying. So like I was there. I was with you, Dominic, and I was strong, but I was tight. And I actually didn't realize how hard I had to work to move against how tight I was. And I was strong, but only in certain areas. So I was strong in the gym at this sort of push-pull unidirectional thing, but then I would get out onto the soccer field and I didn't really realize how hard I had to work to move in 360 degrees. So I get to the end of my senior year of soccer at university, and for some reason I ended up going to yoga. And I will never forget my first class. You walked in, we're in this down dog position, the room is super hot, and we were just going to hold in down dog for a little while. To me, it felt like 45 minutes of down dog. It was probably 2 minutes, but like my muscles were burning. I was straining. Couldn't breathe. I was dying. And in my head, I'm like, I'm a professional athlete, and I'm looking around at everybody else in the room, and they're all calm and their form is perfect and they're breathing and they're meditating. And I'm like going to war with this stupid pose. And never mind the fact that then there was like another 73 minutes of movement, but like it absolutely floored me how hard it was to get into a position that was further than the normal range of motion that I was used to and stay there and breathe and all be calm and warrior zen-like. Like I was devastated, to be honest. But what I did when I experienced that is like, well, I have to figure out how to go beat this. So I kept showing up, and it took me about a year to figure out that I had to breathe. So like I've come through a lot of different styles of training, but that was a really awesome experience for me because I get what you mean when you're like, I did 15 minutes and I had to like tap out. I so get it. So the thing is though, if we can take this time again, where we don't have the same equipment that we're used to, especially if you're someone that loves the gym a lot, you probably do the stuff you're good at. You probably do what you're comfortable with. We talked about that routine at the beginning, right? What it means though is you start moving in one direction all the time. You get really good at that one direction, but now you're not training the other directions. Like we're designed to move in 360 degrees. So if you go straight forward and straight back and you don't ever train around the rest of that circle, the rest of that circle is actually really important to your overall movement ability and strength output. But if you don't ever train in those other spaces, then you start losing your mobility and you start losing your range of motion. You start losing your access to total body strength. And it actually limits how good you can be in that forward and back direction. So when we talk about stretching, it's, again, another thing that has like a little bit of a misconception. There's actually a ton of different things available, but they sort of all get lumped in under stretching or mobility work. So the one thing that I would say is there's lots of different types. and different bodies need different things. So like even the difference between the two of you, Dominic, you're super muscle dominant, you're really strong, but you're probably not very flexible. Like if you were to lie on the floor and Stasia was just going to lift your leg up in the air, it might not go very far.
It's like breaking wood.
Fine, so let's call that like a lack of flexibility. Nastasia, if you were the one lying on the floor, I don't know, Dominic could probably take your toe pretty close up towards your face. Like your leg would move a whole lot further. So looking at the difference between the two of you, I'm saying there's benefit to doing mobility work for both of you, but obviously it would be different. Like what you would do, Dominic, would be different than what Nastasia would benefit from. So I do want to say that because there's a lot of options, but just in general for where we're at right now, if we did some stretching, if we did some foam rolling, if we did some body movement, if we did some mobility stuff, when you get access to that range of motion in 360 degrees, you take strain off your joints, you allow for better circulation, you take tension out of the tissues, you kind of allow your muscles to rebalance themselves a little bit. And then when you do go back to the gym 2, 3, 4 weeks from now, whenever it is, you're going to go hit that chest press again, and you're going to be like, man, I feel great. Like you're worried about losing gains, but what I'm telling you is you'll probably go back and you'll be surprised that your range of motion will be better, how your shoulders will feel will be better. You might not have the total max strength like on day one, but it's going to come back really quickly. And I bet you'd even be able to go further because you've spent that little bit of time in mobility. Whereas, you probably have like a max amount of weight that you lift right now, and you kind of just like, you're satisfied with that, but you can't really get past it. So this kind of stuff would allow you to like spend it's like a forced deload. Like we worked out for months and months and months or weeks and weeks and weeks, and then we take this little deload phase. We're sort of being forced into that right now, but there's a ton of benefit to that. Because again, when you work with a trainer, we program that deload phase on purpose. So you guys are just kind of being forced into something that maybe you haven't had the chance to experience before.
So I'm hearing a lot of variety, and I am at zero loss for what to do. I mean, there's a ton of stuff to do here. We can do some aerobic cardio. We can cycle in some anaerobic cardio. We can do our core exercises. We can do our body weight exercises using that whole tempo and isolation theory and idea. We can do some stretching and some mobility and some foam rolling. Like there is a ton to do. I'm just trying not to gain 10 pounds. So to me, when I hear like core and stretching and body weight exercises and walking, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to not gain a ton of weight during this time? So I get it for somebody who's taking a step back to realign, to get back in the gym and be stronger and bigger and better. I just don't want to gain 10 pounds during this time. So is it still the same theory? For the things that you're giving us are still going to be effective to like manage my weight? Do I have to like really dial in my nutrition? Like, is this enough if I can't go to the gym and take my Zumba or do a bunch of crazy spin class or a bunch of crazy weight training? Am I cool on just staying in the shape I'm in?
Yeah, awesome. So this is a nice way to recap and sort of pull it all together, because one of the number one things that drives weight gain is stress. Excessive, chronic, high stress is one of the things that drives weight gain. So again, if our whole goal right now was just to manage stress, you'd be surprised how much that's actually going to help. And I'll give you an example. I actually have clients sometimes who have a very stressful lifestyle. They're working out, they're working hard, they're sweating in the gym every day, and then they go on vacation and they actually lose weight. And you know why? It's because they take a break, they take a rest, they get better sleep, they relax, right? And it seems like it doesn't make sense, but that's how important your hormone balance is. When it gets way out of whack, it's really hard to lose weight. If you're trying to stay healthy and you're super stressed out, you're putting a lot of extra stress on the body. So it kind of goes back to our overall concept, which was just manage stress. So when we sleep better, when we hydrate, when we get a little bit of exercise, we're going to be balancing out that stress. The other two things that we can look at for why these recommendations that I'm giving you guys today are really going to help with what you asked for, Nastasia, is if we take that aerobic cardio and we take whatever our current level of fitness is and we just step it up by one notch. One of the things that's physiologically changing the body when you do that is in every single cell, you have these little cool things called mitochondria, and they're like the energy power plant of your cell. So inside of each cell, there's a bunch of mitochondria. When your cardio kind of sucks, you don't really have a lot of mitochondria. You've got like a few. So you're not really burning energy at that cellular level very well. So if you were to think about it like a dimmer switch, the light is low. If you take your cardio up by a notch, you get more mitochondria. Like your body makes more. We call it increasing mitochondrial density. So now you have more power plants in each individual cell. It's like turning the lights up. So if you improve your cardio, your body is actually going to burn more energy all the time. So that would actually be great for helping managing weight gain. Because if your body burns more energy just all the time, then you can kind of still keep eating the same amount. You're burning more energy now, right? So that's kind of how the hormone benefits from the aerobic cardio. If we talk about the anaerobic side, adding in the little, bits of intensity or the body weight movement or finding ways to get like a little bit of that muscle burn, again, that's lactic acid being produced. And if you think about it, acid, it would break down the body, right? That's actually why you get that delayed onset muscle soreness, that DOMS, like you hurt a little bit the next day. It's because that acid's still sitting in your muscle tissue. But the brain goes, oh my God, there's lactic acid. That's going to tear my muscles apart. So then what it does is it produces a hormone called growth hormone, because growth hormone helps repair and rebuild muscle tissue. The other awesome thing about growth hormone is it drives fat burning. So when we get growth hormone in the body, our body naturally goes, oh, I'm going to prioritize burning fat because I'm trying to save sugar for the next time you go do this kind of higher intensity, crazy pump of a workout. So if we increase mitochondrial density, we're burning more fat at the cellular level all the time, even at rest. When you add in this little bit of anaerobic kick, you're creating lactic acid that drives growth hormone production. Growth hormone is also going to prioritize fat burning. So those two things, in addition to balanced nutrition, those two things are actually going to act on your body in a pretty important way. And that's going to help you either lose weight or stay at the weight that you want, in addition to sort of manage stress and being healthier, physically stronger. So when we look at weight management, whether it's weight loss, staying the same, gaining, whatever, part of what exercise does is it drives a particular hormone output. And how the hormones tell the body what to do is a big part of how our body changes or not. So if I never generate any growth hormone, well, I'm not going to gain muscle. If I have very low mitochondrial density, I'm not going to have good energy level in the sense of how much my body is burning. So if we pick the right kind of exercise and we get that hormone output the way that we want it, it actually has a huge impact when we balance it out against just some simple nutrition stuff. And that's kind of the goal.
I love how Logan wraps up. Just some simple stuff.
Yeah.
Just a little simple stuff.
I just feel like I got a PhD.
Yeah, come on. So easy. Logan, you deliver every time, and you did a phenomenal job with today. Definitely putting, I'd say, Nastasia and I at ease, but just recap because we've got a ton of notes here. Is first and foremost, you got to manage your stress. You got to sleep well. You got to work out, and I'll take the bottom and I'll pull it to the top. Control your nutrition. Let's not go crazy. Let's not stress eat. A little bit of alcohol, a little bit of chocolate. Do it all, because that's
just
what
a
we
little
need.
bit.
Yeah, just like let's not overdo it. Number 2 is build the base. And so if you're not doing any cardio, start doing it. If you're doing intense cardio and just change it up. Like your heart, Logan emphasized a ton that you cannot build a strong body without a strong heart. And the anaerobic and aerobic benefits of doing so through various forms of exercises are priceless to any kind of health endeavor you have. And also focus on the core, your spine, your pelvis, between the knees and the elbows, of just like keeping your body strong inside out. And then on the last one is don't skip the flexibility and mobility. And just the more you can move safely in the right range of motion will only help you become stronger or faster or recover quicker. Part of what you were saying, especially then when you go into the hormones, and all this ties into the betterment of your health and exercise with burning body fat, increasing muscle, and just overall general health and wellness.
And I think an opportunity right now that really excites me is in the fitness business and as a fitness professional, all three of us have been trainers for a very long time.
I feel like I've been a shitty one. Go ahead.
Well, Logan is the best, and like I'm second and you're third. Just kidding. Okay, so what we see from a lot of people coming to the gym or clients of ours, like the number one objection beyond like more than money is time. And right now we have the time. And so I think that we all have an opportunity to take the time that we have right now and start to build the habit. Start to build the routine, because if we can do it right now while we have the time, this cardio, the outdoor walks, the indoor movements, the body weight, the core, the mobility, the stretching, if you take the time, because you have it right now, don't tell me you don't, because you do, you have the time right now to do it. Guess what? When you go back into your quote unquote routine and normal life, you're going to have built this as part of your new routine, and it's going to fit right in and slide right in. And so right now you have an opportunity to actually go do this. So as three people sitting in front of you that are very passionate about exercise, very passionate about health and wellness and fitness, and it looks different for all of us, but we do align under that whole notion umbrella. Like, for goodness sakes, it's been our career and our lives, like collectively, like we're more than 30, 40 years together. Like, take the time to do it, because you can right now. And I know that you're going to feel exponentially better and start to have this as part of the routine without it feeling overwhelming and feeling like it's this big, like looming thing that now you have to figure out how to go get fit. Like, do it now, because you can, and you have the time.
Yeah, Logan. So again, let's plug. Where can I find you? So if I'm listening in North America, or we so far we've actually captured quite a few subscribers. Yeah. People actually subscribe to this podcast. And
you guys are so humble. Of course they are. You guys are like, this is such a great thing. Again, like I listen to it and it pumps me up. So like, yeah, I'm not surprised that you've got lots of followers. That's awesome.
But so from the data that I think we can read correctly, they're not all in Vancouver. They're in North America. They're all from New York to California and from Toronto all the way to Vancouver. How can people find you again? What's the easiest way to follow what you're doing?
Yeah, so I mean, again, if we were just going to keep it simple, just in support of the members and stuff on the Steve Nash side, you're going to be able to find a lot of the live online free options just by going to snclubs.com. We've reset the website so that the very first thing that pops up is just links to all of that stuff. So that's a good place to start. And I've got a bunch of stuff on Instagram, but if you start off with just looking for the BCPTI Instagram. Also, it's me. I run it, so you can send a direct message, and depending on what you're asking for, I can send you in a couple of other directions. But if we start from those two, that's easy, central. Those ones are easy to find, and I'm happy to help in any way that I can.
Yeah, you were amazing again, and I think this will probably even be better than the first most popular, most downloaded episode we've had so far. So we greatly appreciate all the time you spent with us.
Now I feel like we all need to go work out.
Oh boy.
I'm pumped.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So I just want to say one thing to finish it up, because it's so important that you said go build the habit. So when we talk about behavioral science and the science of forming habits, there's 3 steps to take to make that happen. Apparently, I'm a fan of 3s. So number 1, pick something that you think works. Pick something that you're excited about. So we just gave you a bunch of options. And if you're like, oh, my God, I could do cardio. That would be so great. Pick that one. Mm-hmm. So pick one thing that you like. Number 2, it doesn't matter how small an amount you do, as in do the lowest amount you can where you actually are willing to go. So if I were to say you have to do 30 minutes of cardio, you might be like, whoa, that's too much for me. But if I said, hey, what amount of cardio are you willing to do? And you were like, you know what, I could do 15. Great, start with 15, because it's taking away the barrier of entry. So take something you're interested in. Do the smallest amount you need to be able to get started. And then number 3, and this is going to sound crazy, but when you're done, congratulate yourself. So that's kind of sometimes what posting a selfie is, or posting what you did on Instagram, or like sharing with a friend that you did it. It's not actually about putting the content out there for someone else to see. It's a way for you to recognize what you did and like pat yourself on the back. So it's going to sound dumb, but I built a set of habits with this little congratulatory thing. And what I did was I picked a song that I really liked to help me get up and do it. I did whatever it was that I was excited about, and I did as many minutes as felt I could. And then at the end, I was like, I looked myself in the mirror. I said, this is going to sound dumb, but I looked myself in the mirror. I said, Logan, great job. You did it. It's all about consistency. You did a great job today. I literally like gave myself a high five, and then I did like a little happy dance in the mirror. Okay. So what that does is that drives a neurotransmitter output. You're giving yourself that little hit of dopamine. You're giving yourself that thing to celebrate. And it sounds crazy, but it's going to start to build that habit. So pick something you like, do as little of it as you can, as little of it as you need, and then celebrate. And it might sound crazy, but if you do those 3 steps, then that will help you build the habit. So any of the things that we talked about today, if they feel like the right thing for you to do it, but then do that little congratulations at the end, and you'll find that it'll help the habit stick. So try it out.
I'm fired up. Let's go do this. Thank you for your time, Logan. And thank you to our listeners. You can find us on YouTube now, on Spotify, on iTunes. I don't know. Just go find us. Thank you for listening. You know, we do this for fun, and it's all about putting out to the community and giving you guys some good content. So hopefully today we did that.
It's time to go.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.